Kia ora everyone, and welcome to another Maven Time session here in the Fundraising Nest. Today I am chatting with Dominque Antarakis, who has come on board as one of our Mavens. Hello, Dominque.
Hello, Michelle. Lovely to be here.
Thank you. So, Dominque is the CEO and founder of Change & Co, and you have been copywriting since 2003 and worked with more than 400 charities around the world. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And you've also presented at many, you're a familiar face to many people across Australia, New Zealand and further afield. So thank you for supporting us. I think for me, you were one of the first people to reach out to me when I started this new initiative and, just to catch up. And I really appreciated your support. So thank you for reaching out and just finding out what's going on and for your support. I know Anna Sher is incredibly supportive of what we're doing too. So, all right then, let's get into it. Dominque, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, for those that don't know you.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm founder and CEO of Change & Co, and we're essentially a content strategy communications agency, very much in the not-for-profit space. As you said, I've been copywriting since 2003 for the fundraising sector. Before that, I was an in-house copywriter at a little agency, and before that, I was a business journalist. And one of the things I loved when I was a business journalist, my beat was women in business. And I kept thinking, oh, I'd love to run my own business. My father was a partner in a business. My mother had a couple of small businesses, but I wasn't sure how to parlay copywriting into an actual business. But, fast forward many, many years. And so we work, with charities in Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong mostly. But as you say, I've worked over the years with hundreds and hundreds of charities all over the place. And what I'm really passionate about is making sure that they're communicating effectively with their donors, their prospects, their stakeholders, because, using the right words and the right tone of voice, the right message at the right time can just make all the difference. And more recently, I've started doing a lot of training with people in the sector because it was actually Finns that started me off with the training, really, in terms of the online stuff. So we were well set up in 2020 when everything went a bit pear-shaped. And there's just so many people in the sector who are thrown in at the deep end, right? So they might have a MyComms background, they may not. They're very passionate about the cause that they're working in, but they just don't know where to start. Or they kind of get it, they know what they're meant to do, but they don't know why they're doing it. So I really love supporting people who, as our tagline says, want to do good but better. Want to learn, and it's amazing how many people out there really are keen to learn, keen to improve. I just love this sector. I sort of fell into it a little bit. It wasn't necessarily a planned move, but ever since I was young, I was interested in, social justice and impact and that kind of stuff. In your final yearbook, when you have to put a little tagline of what encompasses you, mine was, I didn't make this up. It was I saw it somewhere, but it was land rights for gay whales. That was my tagline. So I think the writing was on the wall from a very early age.
Yeah, they're brilliant. And so one of the things about the Community Hub and why we've invited you to be a Maven as well, and I guess kind of born out of my own experience, people inspire people. I think the biggest inspiration is people learning how they walk, how they talk, all of those lovely things about humans. And so do you have, can you look back on periods kind of in your life where someone has inspired you to be a little bit like them? Can you share an example of someone who has helped kind of shape your thinking and who you are today?
Look, there was a woman I used to work with, and she was, still is very encouraging of young people.
Yeah.
So people who are just starting out in their career or their first proper sort of job that's not, selling tacos. And if someone just has some confidence in you, I think that can make a massive difference. And that's what that person was able to give me. And then I've actually got the most inspiration from people in my career who are willing to collaborate.
Yeah.
and willing to be really a partner in what you're creating, not necessarily just wanting to take all the credit for it. It's not to say that I need them to big me up or anything, although that's always nice, isn't it? But just that sense of like nobody in a charity, for example, can do everything themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody gets a result in an appeal because they've done something amazing. It's all these little incremental things that people have to do. Someone has to be willing to share their story honestly and openly.
Yeah.
The people who are answering the phones to donors when they have a complaint or they want to change something. All these people make a difference as to whether your appeal is going to do well or your charity is going to survive and thrive. So I've always been really keen on that collaboration piece, and I'm just lucky that there were some people early on in my career who showed me how to do it. I'm actually a big team player. Like when I was younger and trying to do team sports, I like working with people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 or 3 jobs in my life before I started my own company, where I just had this amazing team around me. And, it's such a truism, but bigger than the sum of its parts. You can do so much amazing stuff when you have a nice, strong team who all support each other. And that's what I have at the moment with my team at Change & Co., which is just brilliant. But that collaboration piece, is something that I always try and bring to every job, every project, every meeting, etc.
Absolutely, and that's a real core value here at the Fundraising Nest. We're here almost to kind of be the narrators of all the amazing stuff that's going on. We're here to celebrate our similarities. We're here to celebrate the people doing the good mahi, the good work, and about showing everyone what's available. And it's about connections, isn't it? When you connect with someone and you can celebrate what they're doing, celebrating the wins. So you mentioned about your parents being journalists. So was I'm guessing was reading was your home a big reading place?
No, they were business owners, but
Ah,
actually, it's interesting. I did a presentation about this. Well, I talked about this in the presentation just the other day, and it got me thinking because my mother, Irish Catholic Australian, massive reader and a
yeah,
really good writer. And so I think from her I got that love of reading, of words, and just using exactly the right words for what you want to say. But my father, who was Greek background, born in Egypt, spoke many different languages, he was a communicator. So
right.
he was all about, he could talk to anybody about anything, and you could not embarrass my dad.
Yeah,
He was one of those people. I think that's why he was really good at foreign languages, because he just wasn't embarrassed.
yeah,
He came to visit me when I was an exchange student in Japan and taught himself how to, count to 10, and was chatting away with my host father, who didn't speak any English, and my father didn't speak any Japanese, but he just, loved people and loved connecting with people. So I think, I ended up with the best of both worlds there. Those two different examples, I suppose,
yeah.
of communication and connecting with people. And sometimes the written word is the way to go. And sometimes it's, verbal.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I've always found copywriting a bit of a strange word. I mean, it's essentially storytelling, isn't it? Or
It
is there
is, I
more to
think,
it?
when it's good. Is there more to it? No, there's a bit more to it.
Yeah, yeah, no, but yeah, it's a real kind of, I guess, yeah, copywriting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
great
at
question.
its
So
core,
copywriting.
it is absolutely storytelling. And we're so lucky in the charity sector, right? Because we have all these amazing stories. I mean, you see corporates, big businesses, banks, trying to tell stories. And it's so hard for them to come across as authentic. Small
Yeah,
businesses can do it really well because it tends to be founder led, etc. But that's how people connect. Ever since we sat around the campfire, back in the Paleolithic era,
yeah,
and talked about what had happened that day, and shared knowledge, and you know built empathy and all that sort of stuff. That's what humans have been doing, and over the years, I've seen that really the most successful appeals and most successful campaigns are the ones that tell the best story.
yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a common theme. So what do you think are the top three priorities in your kind of in your world of copywriting? What are the top three priorities as we move into the next 3 or 5 years?
Mm. Um, Getting the basics right.
Yeah.
Like, I still see some charities or people within charities struggling to just get the basics right. And that can be anything from like just, really solid thank you letter, to making sure that you do have a good bank of stories to tell. That you got everyone in your organization is on board with helping you find those stories.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is there's a pretty big change happening at the moment, and to be fair, it's been happening for a little while, but I think we seem to be hitting a tipping point of what's often known as strengths-based messaging. It's not a great phrase. It's very hard to say. Strengths-based messaging. But I think fundamentally it's a good direction that we're going in, that making sure that the beneficiaries have agency, that they have a voice, etc. But you always have to balance that with, showing need, and how the donor can have an impact. And if you present the story is sort of, it's already got a happy ending, that the donor really can't impact much, then it does impact income. So that's going to be a really interesting, and it's not just about the copyright. It's not just about the messaging. It has to be a top down from your entire organization, how you approach things, how you talk about stuff. And you see, organizations like Oxfam putting out language guides and style guides as a sort of okay, guys, we really have to start changing the way, the attitude. And if you come from a privileged background, pretty well off country, it's actually really, really hard to put yourselves in the shoes of someone who has not grown up the way that you have.
Absolutely. When you talk about communication, I remember one of the tips that I got many years ago, and it's always stayed with me, is it's also about respecting how people want to be communicated. We can't all assume that we just have to make everyone digitally communicate. So if someone calls you, note that in your system. If someone texts you, or if they write you a letter, like the way that they communicate with your organization is quite indicative of how they would like to be communicated. Would you say there's some truth to that?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, people's behavior is telling you a lot. And I guess the caveat to that is don't sort of overcorrect. A lot of people are sort of saying, "Oh, digital is starting working for us," or "Everyone's on digital now, so we're just going to ditch DM, etc." So it brings up a really good point, Michelle, about the noting things down and making sure your data is clean and up to date as much as possible. And that is a full-time job, as we know. Like, getting that right is, you can't let the things slip. And that's another massive challenge, I think, in the sector. First of all, having a really good, robust database that does what it needs to do, making sure that the data is, inputted consistently, because that's how you get great personalization and, as you say, appropriate channels as well as language for people, because the more you know about them, without getting too stalkerish, the more they're going to feel engaged and seen. There's still organizations that kind of go, "Oh, we don't really want our regular givers to be reminded that they're regular givers because they might cancel it." It's like, but if you don't remind them, then how do they know that their gift is having an impact? And I've had this experience where I might have 5 or 6 or 7 RG payments on the go, and when I come to consolidate or cancel a couple because my credit card's getting a bit it's the ones that I haven't heard from that I go, "Oh, I forgot that I was a regular giver to those people," so they can go.
And also, they might want to give more if you don't communicate with them. How will you know?
This is it. And I think the charities that see asking as giving people an opportunity to support. I mean, when I'm passionate about a cause, I wish I was a bazillionaire so I could just give money away to all the amazing organizations that I really want to support. I want an opportunity to donate, and I want to know why you need my money. I mean, there are, in fact, all these billionaires at the moment, aren't they, going, "You just hit me up. I'm happy to, I want to solve world hunger. I've got a lazy 20 billion. You tell me what you need."
Yeah.
And charities are going, oh well, I don't know what to say, and it's going to be really complicated. And it's like, no, no, no. You must have a case for support.
Yeah,
Get on the phone, tell the guy, yep, if you give us
yeah,
$500 million, we can solve it overnight.
yeah, brilliant. So just stepping outside of the copywriting world, as we get to know you as a Maven, who is Dominique when she's not writing incredible copy?
Gosh, so I have a partner of 28 years,
Hmm.
and actually he's Japanese.
Yeah,
His English is beautiful, but you know, the getting communication right in a partnership or relationship is just an ongoing challenge.
yeah,
And I just learned so much really about how taking a breath, how to
yeah,
speak, all that sort of stuff. I have a 19-year-old lovely son who is just the most thoughtful and uh, insightful lad that you could ever meet. He's actually doing psychology at university.
yeah,
Wants to be a counselor.
yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, and it was quite cute though. The early, so he's in second year, and he said, "Oh, I've just realised that when I'm in a therapy session with somebody, I don't have to come up with all the answers. I just have to ask the right questions." He's like, "It's such a relief because how am I supposed to know what they're meant to do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not up to
Yeah,
you."
yeah, that's funny. My daughter is, my eldest is just doing her master's in genetics, and she wants to be a genetics counselor, but she's
Yeah.
also fluent in Japanese, Japan. That's where she's heading off there later this year. She's
Mm-mm-mm.
been to Japan many times, so we've got a strong love of Japan in our household too. So yeah, it's a very special culture and language, and yeah, I've learned a lot from her on the Japanese culture.
Mm-mm.
So tell me, we're just about coming to the end of our Maven time. It goes so quickly. I know you have a copywriting essentials course, which you have just launched, and we will be sharing that in the hub. And so tell us a bit more. How long is that course? Is that modular? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's actually an on-demand online course. It's 5 modules.
Yep,
We've had to put a few people through as a sort of test subjects.
yep,
And each module is around about an hour to an hour and a half. There's activities and quizzes as well. So it sort of depends how much, you want to deep dive into it.
yep,
There's lots of little explainer videos with me on the screen, taking
yep.
you through stuff that's there. I think we launched about 10 days ago. I've had a pretty big response. 50 people registered already, which is great.
Amazing.
And obviously, as people go through it, we'd love some feedback. It's on a platform called Kajabi, and we have an opportunity to, update and edit and stuff like that. So if people have registered and go through it, we'd love to hear what you think. And then I also run a masterclass course, which is run over 6 months, which is like a series of monthly webinars with a small group of people, 10 to 12 maximum, and then one-on-one copy review. And I think that's where people kind of fall down a bit because there's these amazing conferences and webinars and all sorts of training out there. And you attend and you go, oh my God, this is fantastic. You take some notes and you go back to your job and you write something and you go,
You get stuck. Yeah.
think I got what they were saying, but is this right? Et cetera, et cetera. So those sessions are really fun. I have a lot of fun with people going through their content one-on-one.
Yeah.
And of course, copy is never just a standalone thing, right? It has to be part of a bigger plan, a bigger
Yeah.
picture, a bigger, generally minimum sort of 12-month thing. So yeah,
Sounds
the training
really
is really
exciting,
good
and
fun.
we'll share the information along with this video on how you can be part of any of those opportunities that Dominique has
Thank
on
you.
offer. And before you go, I've got two more questions for you. What are you most Do you have a proudest moment in working in the non-for-profit space that stands out?
Ooh, proudest moment. Probably my very first couple of fundraising letters because so back in 2003, a friend of mine called me up and said someone I'd worked with before and just said, look, I've just started working at it was actually Pareto fundraising at the time, and someone's written this fundraising letter, and I don't know anything about fundraising letters, but I know it's really, really terrible. Can you come and help me out? So we sort of sat at my kitchen table for a few nights and just wrangled this
Yeah.
fundraising letter. And I just absolutely fell in love with the whole idea that you could, communicate something important,
Yeah.
and show people how they could have an impact and ask them for money, and then it actually worked. That's
Yeah.
the other extraordinary thing. And again, that's not down to me. It was a team of people who had a vision and executed, and raised, more for that charity than they'd ever, in one appeal, I think, than they normally would raise in a year. That kind of feeling is very hard to
It is, isn't it?
hard to let go of, right? So
yeah, no, brilliant. Okay, final question. What advice would you give to your younger self that you didn't know then that you know now?
Hmm. Um, I think there's two things. One is try and surround yourself with people who are smarter than you.
Yeah.
Um, do things well that you don't do well, but that complement your strengths as well. And then the other thing is to just trust your instinct. Uh, the number of times I've been on a phone call or met someone, or, just had this thing in my gut just going either, oh my God, I think this is a massive opportunity, or this just doesn't feel right. I just did something about this, but you do it anyway or whatever. Yeah. And I've learned over the years to just, trust my instinct, because you're generally correct.
I agree. I don't think anyone has ever said, "Oh, I wish I'd trusted," has never said, "I wish I trusted my instinct on that one." I think we've all had moments where we've gone, "I should just have trusted my instinct."
Yeah.
But brilliant. Dominque, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really fabulous having us, and I know you're going to continue to be part of the fundraising Nest fan out, and we'll be rolling out some more information about how the Mavens will be supporting our mentoring and coaching program. And
Fantastic.
Dominque will be in the Mavens Hub. The idea is the Mavens will engage as often as they can. They're very, very busy people, but the idea being that that at some point the Mavens will be in there, and you can hopefully engage with them in the hub. And so until then, good luck with your rolling out your course. It sounds like it's already going really well, and we look forward to carrying on our relationship. It's really great to have you on board. And,
It's so lovely to be part of it all, Michelle. Good luck with it.
thank you.
I look forward to
Awesome.
seeing it, how it all
Yeah,
explodes from here.
absolutely. All right, Dominque, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All
See
right,
you.
see ya.